to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station Travel Show. Today, we are excited to welcome back travel writer Debbie Stone. We call her the Fire Monkey. She got that name from a monk in Bhutan. So we get to still call her that over many years, right? Debbie, we get to still say that. I know you're like, come on, you keep calling me that, but it's true. You're the Fire Monkey, and you really do know about where to go and where to travel, because you travel the world, you travel the country. Even during COVID, you said, heck no, I'm getting in the car and still traveling. And so it's nonstop. Today's show is all about Memphis. Now, we've covered Memphis a couple of times on the show, but I think you got the insider as a traveler. We've had Milton on the show, but you really got to go and experience it. So a little bit of interesting things is like when I look at you going to Memphis, you went to Nashville beforehand, right? So then you went
Correct.
to Memphis, and there's like the music highway that connects the two. So that had to be kind of like a connected but also different experience going between the two cities when we think about
Yes,
music.
I think that they're very different in many respects, but Nashville for so many people is about country music. That is it's got the Country Music Hall of Fame. It has it is the beacon for country music. So Memphis is a different sort of beast in regard to music, and it's all about rock. It's rock and roll. It's about soul and the blues, and so you get a whole different vibe there than Nashville. But also Memphis, history-wise, is a fascinating place with a much different history than Nashville. And so I was fascinated to learn about the history, and I knew that the Civil Rights Museum was there. There was a lot of Martin Luther King history there, and many firsts in regards to historical events and things. But and also, of course, importantly, it's where Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated as well. So there is a lot of that history, and there's a lot of music history. But it's also, the place where Elvis, the King, lived, and where his mansion Graceland is, and so you've got that whole dynamic there. So there's so many reasons why visitors go to Memphis, and those are some of the reasons. And not to mention also that it's a foodie town, and has an enormous array of wonderful food, great food. And so I got to experience a lot of Memphis on different angles, on different levels, and which I thought was a wonderful way to experience the city. Instead of just focusing on one specific angle, I was able to get more bits and pieces, and which make for I think a more informative or interesting whole when you look at what the destination.
Do you mean the Big Blend concept? I'm just saying, when you travel to a place, if you're just going to do all one or the other, you don't actually get the full scope. And I know Milton Howry's been on our show a few times, and every time I say, I promise it's going to be like 20, 30 minutes, and then it's an hour, because there's no way you can talk about the music without the history of why the music was there. And and then, like what you're talking about with the food, comes from the culture and the heritage, right?
Absolutely.
It is all connected. Beale Street, I think, as music lovers, we all know Beale Street to be a destination. I knew it as a kid living in South Africa, knowing I want to go to Beale Street. And of course, now Beale Street is a little different than what I wanted from the past, but you walked Beale Street. You did it. Tell me, what is Beale Street like as a travel writer who's gone through many cities, places around the world and across this country? What was Beale Street like for you?
I think, there's a lot of similarities between Beale Street, and of course in Nashville, where the honky tonk clubs are down Broadway there. It's a place of neon nightclubs with a wonderful melting pot of music, whether it's blues, jazz, rock, R&B, gospel. And just like in Nashville, the music spills out onto this 3-block range, this street, blocks of it's a historical landmark, by the way. It's a National Historic Landmark. And,
Wow.
it's very iconic because this is where, so many artists like Muddy Waters, like Louis
Mm.
Armstrong, like B.B. King, they all played on Beale, and they helped to create and develop that Memphis blues sound that everybody is so aware of and is so famous. And there's also a lot of history that happened there because it was home to many black-owned businesses, a lot of restaurants, a lot of shops, and it was headquarters for Ida B. Wells' anti-desegregational newspaper called the Free Speech. And so, it also had a prominent piece to play with the civil rights movement. So there is a lot going on there. As a visitor, it's a wonderful place to go and hear music, and you can pop in and out of these clubs, stay for as long as you want, move on to the next one. People spill out into the streets. It's a big party scene at night, and yet it also goes during the day in terms of the clubs and their music, and so people are there during the day as well.
So when you were there, I mean, you're also like you're talking about the National Civil Rights Museum is right there. So you like we can't think about that music and it, it that era of music was during the civil rights movement, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even now, I know that it's got a really high end hip hop movement, rap music movement going on too. So like it's kind of interesting where Memphis is holding on to its roots, right? But also allowing progression to happen. Did you feel that as a travel to the
I
city?
think so. Oh, yeah. You'll hear all different kinds of music there. So it appeals to, I think, all music lovers, and so it's not just one genre there,
Mm.
and each club has its own vibe, so to speak, and
Yeah.
so, there's an Irish pub area. There's I spent some
And
time at
nobody
the
would think
BB
that,
King's.
right? Nobody would think
No,
that.
no,
Like
no,
we
not at
interviewed the
all.
box tops on our show. They wrote the letter, right? The box tops.
Yes, of
And they
course.
were on our show a few years ago. And he was saying like, you know, we're the era we were the soul people. We were the soul. Like,
Hmm.
and so it's such an amalgamation of music. It's really fascinating. And then when you're talking about Muddy Waters and everybody, like when you think about blues and Beale Street, which is blues and jazz, right? You your background in your heritage is Chicago. So was that a connection for you with the music going like Muddy Waters went up to Chicago and everybody went up there. So was that kind of an interesting connection for you
Oh,
with
of
the
course.
music heritage?
Chicago. Yeah, Chicago's famed for its blues. And R&B
Yeah.
scene.
Oh,
Has that history as well. So I think, like you said, there's all these interactions that go on within these cities, these places where artists went from one city to another and then left their mark.
Memphis to me is iconic as heck. And you can actually go to the places where people recorded. And isn't that kind of one of the things that is so amazing for a visitor is that you can go
Oh,
and see
definitely.
these iconic places
Yeah,
where
definitely.
recordings were made.
Like Sun Studio, which is very,
Mm.
very well known, and it is a place where visitors flock to. It's one of the top attractions because this was known as the birthplace of rock and roll because the disc jockey there, Sam Phillips, who who created such a name for himself because he helped bring attention and fame to all this talent. Like B.B. King, like Elvis, of course, Jerry Lee Lewis, Ike Turner, Johnny Cash. All these artists passed through these doors and were recorded here. And so what's really cool in this tour is that local musicians, local Memphis musicians, give you they're the guides, so they give you the tour. So they're very passionate, and they're also very informative about the studio. And you're going to see a lot of wonderful memorabilia and artifacts, and you're going to hear voices from these legends and listen to recording sessions, outtakes from these sessions, and you'll hear about really interesting, fun stories. And, and then you'll see the actual studio where these greats recorded. And what's cool is that Sam Phillips, he donated a lot of the equipment, and but he did it with one caveat, which was that the equipment couldn't be kept behind glass. He wanted people to be able to touch them, and so you're allowed to touch them, and it's wonderful because it's this great visceral experience instead of like a museum experience.
I think that is huge. And I think museums have also learned not to, like, don't touch me. you know, they've started to learn that the interaction needs to happen. And when it comes to music, it's the experience. And like you're saying, it's like, this is something for music lovers that just is, you're coming home. You know what I mean? It's a huge deal. You went to Stax Museum too, right?
This is the American Soul Music Museum, excuse me. And so this is where the original site of the studio, which was called Stax Records, which was. And this museum is dedicated to the artists that record there, as well as like some other of the soul legends and powerhouses, like Otis Redding and the Staple Singers and Al Green and Ike and Tina and, Isaac Hayes and Aretha and Booker T. And, so all of these wonderful greats are there. And so, so you can get your fill there. I mean, it's like if you were a music lover, this is, just like Nashville too, but this is more if you're interested in, soul, rock and roll, blues, more of an expansive array of music. You can get your fill here and more.
I would go there just because Mavis Staples is one of my favorite people on the planet. Did they have anything on her? I mean, I know they have the Staples
They
singers,
always have
but
Mavis has always been, she's
Mavis
so,
is like she's a monarch to me. Of blues and soul and God, like, can she just live forever? Can we just put her in like a little, you can't put her in.
There's so many of them, it's like I love Aretha, and I love Al Green, the Reverend, and I mean, I grew up with a lot of that music.
Tina Turner right now, I mean, she passed away recently.
Yes, exactly.
That has been, I think, a resurgence of her music has been so huge. And I'm like, we knew that a long time ago. Oprah knew for sure. Remember, Oprah started wearing her hair like Tina Turner for years. And Tina had to tell her, like, that's enough. Or I don't know if it was her boyfriend or whatever said that's enough, but the music that comes out of these areas, it's just driving across the country. When you get through those areas, your radio station actually plays real music versus the playlist of Hotel California every time. You can actually find that dial. I'm sorry. Nancy and I look at each other every time like, are you kidding me? And then it will happen again. And we're looking like, what? And we could listen to ebooks and all that stuff, but we try to always find what's happening locally. And look, normally through NPR, you can do that. In especially university towns in Memphis area, you can. Nashville, you can. But it's important. I mean, these are icons of American music, what makes Americana. And so when you were in Memphis, did you feel that? Like, I'm walking in the history of America, like a different history of America. There's a Revolutionary War, there's Civil War, there's all of that. But this was like, it's African American history of we're doing this now. Did you feel that?
I think, you feel wherever the destination is, you're going to feel what the history is there. It's hard to separate that from the destination. And I don't want to. I want to be
Mm.
engaged and involved with all aspects of the place. But yeah, Memphis has, it has this wonderful, rich and vibrant vibe. The history roots go way deep, and I think music is the lifeblood of the city. It's also
Mm.
really a multicultural place because there are influences there from across around the world, and so it's not only seen within music influence, but it's also seen within food influences and everything else that you're going to come across, because it is a place where people come from all over. And when I was there, you not only see Americans as tourists, you see a lot of international groups coming through, because this is a hallowed place.
Right. It is. Like you're saying, hallowed place. That's a perfect way to say it because it's true. The National Civil Rights Museum. I want to go there.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that.
it's
Oh,
where you would find it fascinating, and it is truly an incredible experience. I wish I had had more hours, because it really is such a detailed and involved museum, and it gives you such an overview of the movement, and starting with slavery all the way to current times. And so it's also a very emotional experience, which I mentioned in my story. So
hmm
you can be overcome by the impact, because there is a lot to take in, and a lot of it is overwhelming. But it is located in and around the Lorraine Motel, which is famous for so many people, because it is where civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. So they utilize the motel. They don't put the museum in the motel, but there is a piece of the motel that is in the museum, which is the rooms where MLK was staying at, right, before he was assassinated. But the museum itself has just so many artifacts. It has a lot of oral histories, a lot of interactive of media, and it goes through 5 centuries of history, which is a lot of history to cover. So it goes chronologically, which makes a lot of sense. So it's a seamless, smooth transition from, like I said, the slavery, and then Jim Crow, and, desegregation, and then, boycotts and sit-ins, and the Freedom Riders, and then, the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and it goes on up until ending with MLK's final hours. And a wreath is put on the balcony, actually, where he actually stood when he was assassinated. And
I
so it's
invite
very
everyone to
powerful.
go there now.
Yeah,
They,
it's
with the
powerful.
way the world is right now, I would say we need to revisit. Um, if you've not been there before, I we had. I hate to say the opposite. We experienced in Natchitoches, Louisiana, at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. They also is a state museum connected. And the last time we were there, they had the um, what do you call the cars that the funeral cars? What do you call them?
The hearses? The
The
hearses?
hearse. They had the
Yeah.
hearse that carried MLK, Martin Luther
Yeah.
King Jr. out, on display. And
Yeah.
I was photographing and everything, but like, when you talk about heavy history, I'm like, that's his final transport, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was hard to even photograph it, you know,
Yeah.
just even out of like, I felt weird about doing it. Like, this is something so sentimental. And so he was there. That was his last place before he was rested.
Yeah.
And it felt very odd to photograph. And I didn't really sleep well that way that night doing that. I don't know. I can't explain it other than that man stood up for so many and went for it 100% and more than 100%. And, we look at the way the world is now, and I think it's important to go to these places, not necessarily photograph it like I did for a story, but um, I think it's important to visit and connect with these places so we can understand more and maybe understand more about what's happening now. Would you feel that with
Oh,
your
well,
trip to Memphis?
well, I think, yeah, and I think it's important for everybody to visit and revisit places.
Yeah, I like
History
what
has
you
a
said there. Yeah.
history has a tendency, unfortunately, of repeating itself, and unfortunately, and in order to prevent certain historical events from happening again, I think people need to visit places where history does come alive, where it is there, where they can see it, they can understand it, try to understand it, and get more informed about it. I think it's important to take children, to take teens, to be adults, to be seniors. I think all ages need to go where history can be made alive for them, so that it is clearer and you really you can touch it, you can feel it, you can use your senses to try and engage in it and hopefully learn from it.
Mm. And I want to go do the history of Elvis Presley.
Oh gosh, you can't. I mean,
I
Memphis
have to.
is the
I
land
have.
of the king. You have to go to Graceland. Years and years ago, and like I want to say maybe 30 years ago, I was in Memphis, my one and only time, but prior to going more recently. And when I went to Graceland, it was just the mansion. That was just what you
Yeah.
went in to see. And I mean, I remember the mansion, but when I went back, it's like, oh my gosh, it's now the Elvis Presley's Memphis Entertainment Complex. And so it's more than just Graceland. The mansion, and many people are surprised it's smaller than many people would anticipate. It's not like this mega mansion. It's a nice size home. But you really get to see kind of Elvis's and his wife Priscilla's taste in their furnishings. You get to see where his man cave, which was called the Jungle Room. You get to see that. Photos of him, his parents, his wife, his daughter, and you get a real slice of his life. But as I mentioned, it is. I don't know. It's decorated in what I would call mid-century kitsch.
Yeah. Well, that was that time. Yeah.
Yeah, 60s and 70s, and so you get the green shag carpeting, not only on the floors but on the walls and the ceilings. You get these stained glass peacock panels, these heavy velvet drapes, lots of mirrors everywhere, creepy monkey statues, which I found hysterical. Polynesian tiki style furniture, fake fur couches. And then it's fun. It's fun to kind
It
of
was
be in
opulence at
that.
that time. And
Yes.
everyone, like what Debbie is talking about, I call her Fire Monkey. Debbie was talking about is, she's got an article up on blendradioandtv.com, which is all linked through the show notes, no matter if you're listening on YouTube or Apple or Google, wherever. You can link through and see her article and the photos as well with this, because it's kind of interesting, because I remember like when I first got to this country, like thinking, you know, getting, you know, this is where I was born, everyone, coming home after, my
Right.
most of my life in Africa, coming home. Graceland was on the thing of like being raised outside of this country. Graceland was a thing. If
Yeah.
you go to the United States, you must do Graceland. It was one of like the top 10 things to do. The Grand Canyon and Graceland were at the top, right? And we actually interviewed a lady for many years from Yosemite. She owned the Groveland Hotel, Peggy, and she went to school with Elvis. And we've been to many places where Elvis has been and documented and everything. But I always said, "Oh, I want to go to Graceland," and then it got like kind of big. And, like some people are like, "Oh, it's so commercial." What would you say, like on that sphere, like for people that are diehard fans, are they going to be happy going there?
Yes,
Like,
because
too big?
it's not only the mansion tour, that you can really take a deep dive, but further on that, there is amazing exhibits. Like one of my favorites was this one called Elvis Dressed to Rock, and it was more than 100 pieces of his outlandish stageware and, in floor to
Mm.
ceiling displays. Then at the Automobile Museum, you can, walk around and look at his cars, his pink Cadillac and, his Rolls Royce sedan and Mercedes Benz limo. And then get a deep dive into his army stint and see about when he had to went to the army, and then his influence on other artists. So they expanded. So you really get more than just walking through his house. And then, of course, you get to see his airplanes, which, one of them was called the Lisa Marie. And by the way, Lisa Marie, who passed away, as
I
we
didn't
know,
even know. Yeah.
yes, she passed away this past year.
Yeah.
Her grave is right there at Graceland. It is, near where his grave is. And so, it was kind of sobering to see his daughter, her grave there. And a lot of people were there paying a respect for that.
Yeah,
But
you were right at the same time frame, I think,
yes,
of
yeah,
of her passing.
it's
Yeah.
so much. But the whole experience, I think people who truly, they really, really, really love Elvis, or they're just fascinated, will be, I think, satisfied with the amount of displays and information that is available. Yes, there is some commercial aspects to it because, of course, there's,
Yes.
you're going to get
Yeah.
restaurants and gift shops, but, that's a part of many places. But I think the exhibits were excellent in my mind, and I felt like they really did a good job of presenting various aspects of his life,
I love to hear that, and I didn't know he flew planes. But when when we lived in England as a little kid, and we always got knocked around for being not knocked around physically, just verbally, accosted of being Americans at times, just joking around. Let me be real clear about this. If you're in England, you know what I'm talking about. Um, they would, you're late for the war was what we were always told. I mean, this was in the 80s and 90s, 80s, mid 80s. And we're like, we don't know what you're talking about. Which one? Nancy would always think the Vietnam War. What? No, but it was World War II. But
of course. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
they would go, America's shite since Elvis died, kind of thing. Later, and it was this whole thing. And if you watch the movie The Commitments, you'll see everything's shite since Roy Orbison died. Same kind of thing. Elvis, people, Elvis was in every household. Was the biggest thing in England. And I know people come to this country just for Graceland, just for that. And
Absolutely.
so they'll go to Memphis, go to Graceland. That is the main thing to do. And then soak up, of course, Sax Records and all of that too. But they come to this country just for that. Elvis is huge. I mean, he's huge.
I think
huge.
You can go. You probably can go to places all over the world, and if you mention Elvis, people will know who you're talking about. It's just.
Oh yeah.
It's you don't even have to mention Elvis Presley. You just have to say Elvis.
Elvis. Oh yeah, right.
That's it.
That's it. And did they talk about him in that, like, he learned from the African Americans, right? So there's also an issue of that side that I've seen where it's like, no, he didn't invent rock and roll. Of course he didn't. Chuck Berry actually was pretty much more involved in that. But
Absolutely.
he learned from African Americans, going and watching and listening and learning and doing his own thing. So did they explain that history of him, like the beginning of Elvis, when you were in Graceland?
They did, and the fact that there was some church influence as well. I mean,
oh yeah, he was huge
had
gospel.
A lot of that. Yeah,
huge.
The gospel had a lot of that. So, and it was interesting to go to Graceland first and do all this, and then to go to Sun Studios to see how a disc jockey basically brought Elvis to the attention of the world, so to speak, and how that all happened. So it was interesting to go and see that transition and that transformation, and so that really is a nice way to kind of tie it all up in that respect. At least for me, it is. It's kind of like you're introduced to Elvis, you go through his life and all that, but then you get to the recording studio, and it's like, yeah, here is where the music was made. And here is where, somebody decided this guy had talent,
Wow. Yeah. So you need to tie that in for Elvis lovers. Do both,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Yep.
Oh, that's really cool what you're saying. Yeah, that's really cool for people to know. So the birthplace of rock and roll, right?
Yep. You got it.
So okay, let's move on. Because I mean, you obviously had a good time. Did you eat well?
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
I know you're a pescatarian. I want to make sure you got. I know, like, isn't like that area known for ribs, or am I wrong? Like, what?
They're known for a lot of things, but I mean,
Ooh,
people always associate Memphis with the Memphis style barbecue scene, but it's that. I mean, and barbecue is wonderful there, but Memphis has so many influences. So you're going to get everything from the north and the south coming together. You're going to get New England lobster rolls. You're going to get Chicago style pizza. You're going to get incredible fried chicken.
Chicago.
And
Chicago
yep,
pizza is coming to Memphis. So you guys have this direct route going on, right? So that seems to
absolutely,
be a thing.
absolutely.
Wow.
And there's
And so if
there's
you ate
ethnic
Chicago
food.
pizza in Memphis, would you be happy with it? Because you're a
Of course.
Chicagoan.
Well, I didn't try it, so I can't say. But if they followed
Oh,
the Chicago style pizza, you know,
rule.
rules, so to speak, yeah, But although I do have to say a caveat here because I have been places where they say, we serve Chicago style pizza, and I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Only because
But
I know Chicago
but
style
why
pizza, but
you're not going to do Chicago style pizza when you come from Chicago and you're there to eat what is local. I know you as
right,
a traveler.
right,
So
of course.
what did you eat that you can tell people like you need to do
Well,
this?
I liked. I mean, there are quite a few places. First of all, I do love my biscuit and grits. So, anyway, there's a place
Ooh,
called By the Brewery, which we went to, and it's a great little spot. But it's biscuit heaven, basically, and it's got the cheesy grits, which
really?
I
Mm.
adore. So the biscuits are made with beer, which is interesting, which brings out kind of the or
Ooh,
complements the sweetness of the biscuit. So
yeah.
that was wonderful. And then south of Beale, which they call SOB, is kind of Asian bent. Yeah, and it's so I liked the Asian bent because I love anything that's Asian inspired.
Yeah.
And then Global Cafe, which is phenomenal, is a wonderful place for like these authentic ethnic dishes that come from all over the world. But what it's really cool about it's located in this place called Crosstown Concourse, which is like a vertical urban village that's got not only restaurants and bars, but shops, apartments, a medical clinic, a high school is in there, art galleries, performing arts center. It's got so much stuff in there, but they've got this wonderful international food hall that's called Global Cafe, hosted by immigrant/refugee food entrepreneurs, and they cook. They sell
Wow.
their affordably priced dishes and from their home countries. So you get to watch the meals being made from these open kitchens, and you'll get everything from African food, Mexican food, Indian food, Asian food, and so you can just kind of taste your way around the world. So that was really kind of special. And then if you're really interested in fried chicken, there's a number of places, but Gus's, world famous, is a treasure of Memphis. The locals absolutely adore it. It is a real crisp type of chicken. It's served on paper plates in a kind of 1950s style diner, and it gets crowded. People head there in droves. And then there's, if you like Italian, there's Catherine and Mary's, which has some great pastas. And then one of the top restaurants in town is at the Grand Dame, the Memphis Peabody Hotel. And you can have dinner at Chez Philippe, which is, of course, going to be French, the only Forbes 4-star, AAA 4-diamond rated restaurant and in the Mid-South. So it's one of those elegant, sophisticated
Nice.
places with, wonderful wine matched with your food courses. And so that's a treat if people are looking for a truly special place. The Peabody itself, just to visit the Peabody is a treat because it is this true grand dame of a place, which I think a lot of people go. It's legendary, but it's a charming, elegant place. But it's also known as the place that has the Peabody Ducks, and this is a thing.
Oh my
This
God, I wanted to
you
bring this
have
up because
yes.
seriously, I had
Why?
friends go there the other day, like they're filming that. I'm like, you're supposed to be off camping. They're like, we had to stop for the ducks, and it's your fault. I'm just saying. So tell everybody about the ducks because it's crazy. I just saw this video of ducks, and
Yeah.
they're like, no. And I told them because of your article, and they went, and they were not supposed to really stop, but they did because of the ducks. They went to Memphis because of you and the ducks. So tell everybody about the ducks because this
Well,
is insanely cool.
so first of all, this is this is this hotel that's on the National Register of Historic Places, so it's
Right?
very elegant. But inside, there are 5 resident mallard ducks who march daily without fail through the lobby 2 times a day at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. And people come in droves, and they line the lobby and sit and watch. The ducks are in the fountain, and then Duckmaster. There is a Duckmaster who comes and tells you about the history of the ducks at the Peabody, which began in the 30s, which has a very interesting story. But in any case, it has become a Peabody tradition for these ducks to march at a certain time following the Duckmaster. And they were trained by this bellman in the hotel, Edward Pembroke, back in 1940, who happened to be a former circus animal trainer. And so he offered to help bring the ducks to the fountain each day, and he taught them the Peabody Duck March.
Mm.
So, he became the Peabody Duckmaster. He had the title for 50 years until he retired. And there's a lot of pomp and circumstance, as I say, with this duck march. So the ducks step out of the fountain, they walk down this red carpet behind the Duckmaster, and the paparazzi, all the people who are there, go wild. There's videos and pictures, and the ducks go all the way down to the elevator. And at that point, the Duckmaster and the ducks
Oh,
wave goodbye to their adoring fans.
it's amazing because it's like a duck. It is a march.
It
I mean,
is.
I've watched it. I was like, what are
Yeah.
you doing?
Yep.
I was like, no
Yep.
way. They're like, well, you said so. So
Yep.
we're
Yep.
here.
Yep.
And oh my God, it's
Yep.
like
It
it's like the red carpet
And they
of
are
duck.
treated incredibly well because they spend their time living at the top of the roof of the hotel in the Royal Duck Palace, which is a $200,000 structure, with its own fountain. There's a bronze duck that spits water. There's a little house that's a replica of the hotel, and there's this nice, soft, grassy front yard
It's
for the
crazy.
ducks. And they stay at the hotel for 3 months before they're retired and returned to the farm where they were raised, and they can now live as wild ducks. And then they get another set of 5 ducks that come in. And my question was, I wonder how well they reacclimate to their surroundings after these, very
Luxurious.
cushy tenure at the
Yeah.
Peabody.
And suddenly you're at because the duck parade, when you see
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
is incredible. It's like the history is interesting too. But I heard that you
Absolutely.
also had some really good coffee. And I'm sorry, but if you're gonna go do all this music and food, you need to wake up like with some good coffee. You can't.
Yes,
I
definitely.
listen.
There's
I
plenty,
know what it's like to go without coffee, and no, I'm a really crabby, horrible human being without it. Like
but
honestly, I need my coffee, and apparently you found some.
Well, I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm a tea drinker. So it was very interesting. We went to Coffee
Wow.
Black,
How do
which is
you
called
do it, Debbie? How? Oh, that's
I
how you can be the fire monkey. You can balance.
green
See?
tea. Green tea for me is my
Oh, that's got more
my
caffeine.
get
Yeah.
up and go. So Coffee Black's anti gentrification coffee club.
Mm,
It quote unquote, it's a social experiment that's interested in exploring the impact people can have when they are empowered to live with no sugar and no cream. So this company seeks to make coffee black again, meaning it wanted every part of its business to reflect the black culture and to keep the money within this particular community in Memphis.
mm,
And so it's not only black owned, it's black operated. It has an all black supply chain. It sources
nice.
its beans from Ethiopia, the Congo, and Rwanda. And when I tasted, I said, I'm not really a coffee drinker, but of course I'm going to taste the coffee. And I couldn't believe it. It was really smooth, needed no sweetener in my mind. And then they had something called Gold Brew, which was a cold drink that had some citrus notes in it, and it was amazing. I was like, "Oh my God, let me take home buckets of this. This is how I want to start my day." I mean, so
Ah,
I would have been transformed to a coffee drinker if I could have coffee blacks, coffee
that's
every day.
that's
It was
interesting
insane.
because Nancy's like that with beer. She doesn't drink beer,
Yeah,
and once in a while, like we all go, oh, give her the light thing, and then the other day we were in Asheville, North Carolina, and I think it was Rock Bottom or Bold Rock. I don't know where we were with our friends, and she had an IPA. Loved it. I'm going, what?
interesting.
How did this happen? It just depends. It's like don't ever think you don't like
Right,
something.
right.
There's something like there's real hard like, you know, allergies or whatever and real hard like, things. But honestly, that's an interesting thing for you going from, oh, I
There was.
treat yeah, like Nancy Beer, like suddenly she goes for the hardcore IPA. And I'm like, and she's smiling, she was giggling. She had a good time with it too. But that's an interesting thing. And it's interesting when you talk about anti-gentrification,
Hmm.
because I think that's also something that Memphis is working on its identity with that, right? In a way. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely, and it was wonderful uh, to get a glimpse of that within this community. But I could be easily a convert to coffee if I could have coffee black coffee every day, as
I
I
I just
said.
I just I love the experiences you have there, and I want people to not be scared to travel to places where they may think, oh, Memphis, scared. All this happened with Martin Luther King Jr. and everything, and oh, and I think we have to not be that way. Am I allowed to talk this way? I don't know, but I am
I
because
just
I travel the country. I mean, I go through every kind of neighborhood, and I just feel like we travel is what opens doors.
Of course it does. Of course it does. And so you do have to be open when you travel, and you have to be open to the experiences, open to the people, and not make make your decisions before you go, before you've had a chance to talk, see,
Ooh,
enjoy. And to me, that's a big part of it, because so many times, based on media and things we read or things we see or things we hear, we've already made up our mind before we might even go to a place.
hmm,
And
yeah.
then all of a sudden you go to a place and you're like, be open, and it's like, wow, maybe I'll find that this really is a different place than what the media puts out, or what other people have told me. It's like, so I'm always telling people, like, go open minded. Don't go with preconceived notions and stereotypes if you can. I mean, just try to dispel those things and just greet the place and the people, openly, and then make your own, wait to make your own decisions.
I think you're really right, even on not just the political and humanity side of things, right?
Of
Um,
course.
but also like I want to go to Graceland. I have this picture
Yeah.
in my head, and when I go there, it may be bigger than I thought, and I want it to be this. Like
Right.
it doesn't work that way. When I got to this country as a kid, 19 years old, I was like, okay, I'm coming home to America. I didn't live here
Mhm.
most of my life, majority of my life, and I want to go to San Francisco because of Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix. They
Mhm.
weren't alive. I knew that, but I still expected something to be there. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't,
Yeah.
you know, so my expectations, even though I knew they were completely unrealistic, were there. I knew that, but I wanted that. I wanted Haight Ashbury and the 60s to be there, but it wasn't. It's still there in, pieces and places and whatever, but it wasn't. Like, I just wanted it to be what I read about, the music I love and everything, but it wasn't. And is that a downfall of San Francisco? Hell no. I had a great time. Let me tell you, I found all these other things to see and do and experience and whatever, but you can't expect a place to be what's in your mind. And I think that's really important what you say about that is go with an open mind every time, no matter what you know about a place, what you plan. Because I know people who plan to the T, and I've done both. I've done all extremes. And if you just go, take the essence, right? Like listen to
Hmm.
what Debbie has done, read her article. But she went at this time of year, and you may go to a different time of year, and things may be different. Go with an open mind. Go with an open heart as well, I would say.
And also, the other thing that I tell people is, so you meet a person that's rude, so you meet a person that's not the most friendliest, or says something that's not the kindest.
Huh.
Don't say to yourself, "Oh, the rest of the people in this town are like this."
Oh,
You're making this judgment based on one experience that you had. And yeah, it's unfortunate that you met a rude person, but rude people exist all over the world. They're not just in one place. And so for you to say, everybody in X city or X country or whatever it
exactly.
is rude and unfriendly, and I'm never going back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah, yeah. You're exactly right.
you take
Rude
it to the
people suck.
extreme.
You
That's
could just
ridiculous.
say rude people suck. It's like people that travel, like you're on the road, right? Right now, the America is under construction, basically road construction, right? And
Right,
people get and I'm going to say people have forgotten how to drive. Like some of
right,
us may want to revamp our
right.
skills, um, but that doesn't give you license to be an idiot on the road, and it doesn't
Absolutely.
give you license to also like road rage. You know
Hmm.
that is that form of travel, nastiness that happens with people. So let's all calm down. I'm just saying, being the person on the road full time, calm down. And also, travel is about an adventure, and the obstacles are what makes the story every time.
Yeah,
What you
it's.
think and when it's not is always what makes the story. Is it not true,
I
Debbie?
I agree. A lot of people say it's the journey. It's not the end.
Yeah.
It's all of that. It's all of it is encompassed in one major experience that's composed of millions of little experiences and adventures and off the road detours and things that happened just just fortuitous. It just they just happen. And you meet a wonderful person, and they end up you end up being establishing a friendship with somebody. It's amazing what can happen when you are
You
open
never
to
know.
people. Yeah,
You
yeah,
never know what's going to happen the next day or the
yeah.
next day. You can't
That's
envision
why
it. And
and that's
I,
why I say that openness and
oh,
flexibility and patience are probably the three golden tenets of travel.
well, I know. I just told you about us getting like hook, line, and sinkered on a hotel room, but it's one of those things. But that's me not being conscious, But I'm not going to not travel,
No,
and
of
I'm not
course
going to
not.
not go back to that same area at all.
No,
But
no.
I do want to say what everything you've talked about, like Memphis is this complex place. Can I use that word? Complex, diverse. Um,
Yes,
it's
yes.
complex. So much history, so much music, and nature. There's a lot of nature in Memphis. Milton Howery's been on our show for like 2, 3 years. I think we've done 2, 3 interviews with him, and I love having you go there. And we've had some really good friends go there, and they they rave about it. They're like, "Oh my God, I didn't understand like how you know." I, in the vein of road rage, want to tell you how jealous I am. Like that jealous that you went because we really we were. I mean, we drive through Memphis so much, and I think a
You
lot
need
of
to
people
stop.
do.
You need to
And
stop
and
and
my
spend
my
time.
complete road rage of anybody doing anything wrong. I'm just telling you is my height of jealousy with you is
Oh,
I'm that jealous. And I
well,
know I shouldn't have jealousy, but I'm just telling you, Memphis is one of those places. Like I don't want to drive through again. I just want to stop and
yes.
honestly spend 10 days. I feel like I need 10 days there.
Well, stop
Would that
and
be wrong?
stay. Stop and stay and enjoy, imbibe, eat. Visit the museums, listen to the music. Talk
I
to
want
the
to do the
people.
music.
I
And they
mean,
have
it's
those
just
music rooms where people can just listen to records
yes.
right there.
Actually,
Oh,
that place I was talking about, the Crosstown Concourse, has a music listening room, which is phenomenal, open to the public. You can
did
go
you?
in, and
you-
I went in there, and you can listen to anything. You listen. There's, you've got headphones. You've got it's
No,
amazing, just
like
amazing. Yep, yep,
seriously, you're kidding. And then where did
yep.
you stay? Tell everybody where you stayed, just so you
We
know.
stayed at the Arrive Hotel, which is this very cool boutique property. It's just basically almost across the street from the museum, the Civil Rights Museum, and it's
Wow,
a very it's what's called the South Main Arts District in Memphis. So it's kind of a cool area, and the rooms are awesome. They're like, I don't know, it's just this. They've got these really fun amenities. They've got great comfy beds. They offer some views of the city, but they use concrete floors. They have these like brick walls, which I love, and they take old pipes and use them as bath fixtures. So it's kind of an
oh,
industrial but arty type of decor, and
I love
you
it.
feel like it's a neighboring welcoming kind of place because the locals go there because they have food and drink options there. So that there's a bar, there's a great place for coffee and breads and pastries, and so it's kind of got this hip ambiance, and staff are very, very welcoming. So it's a great location. The trolley stops right in front of the front door. You can hop on the trolley and go places, and
What?
so
There's a
it's a good
trolley.
place. Yeah, there's a trolley.
Ooh,
So that's a good place, a good way to get around. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a plug for all the wonderful watering holes in Memphis, because this is a town that
I'm in.
loves to loves its libations. Let's put it that way. So you've got these wonderful bars, these lounges, these great places that have really interesting craft cocktails, really interesting drinks, I think. And another one is this wonderful distillery called Old Dominic, which is a great tour of this company's spirits. And so it has a very colorful history, and you can go and see the distilling factory, and you can learning about
Huh.
what they do in their water. And I learned that Memphis water is some of the best quality water in the country.
Wow.
So anyway, and so you get a tasting session, so you get to taste vodka and gin and bourbon and Tennessee whiskey and Memphis toddy, and afterwards, you can you can
Go
sit
back
and
to your
imbibe
room.
even more in the bar, or you can work it off, as I said, at the Big River Crossing, which is a mile in length. It's the longest public pedestrian bridge that goes across the Mississippi. So you can walk across it and go from Tennessee to Mississippi and straddle the state line.
No, wait. Is that over the bridge or
Yeah,
over the
right on the
Mississippi?
bridge.
So
Yeah,
you're going over to Arkansas then. So you're
yeah.
crossing over
Excuse
the
me. Yeah,
Mississippi
Tennessee to
River
Arkansas.
to
Right, right.
Arkansas.
Excuse me.
Yeah, you're going to
Yeah,
walk
yep,
over
yep,
to
yep.
Arkansas. I've
Yep.
driven that bridge gazillion of times and they
Ah.
did work. Like I know Milton has laughed at me and they have that almost like the Luxor Sphinx thing that lights up and at night like I've driven through it at 1 a.m. and I'm like, hi, Milton. I'm driving through. Milton, by the way, is with the CVB of Memphis. That's why I keep referencing it. He's been on our show a few times. But I'm like, hi, we're driving over the bridge now. And there's that Luxor thing that like the Luxor in Vegas. Like it's like the
Mhm.
Sphinx, like no, not the Sphinx. What do you call it? The
Well, Luxor is like
pyramid.
the
The pyramid.
Egyptian.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
pyramid. It's like this
Yeah.
silver pyramid as you drive over the bridge, and you're like, oh, I'm in Memphis now. I'm not in Arkansas anymore. And it's interesting because Arkansas has this rock and roll highway. Memphis and Nashville have the music highway, and there's this huge music history in this whole region, even going up to Georgia and Florida and stuff. that
Oh
I'm
yeah.
so fascinated about. I love that you did this and stayed there and had a great accommodations, obviously. Did you do a rooftop bar? Because I heard that they have good cocktails on rooftop bars,
Oh
or is that
yeah,
something
there's
you do?
plenty of rooftop bars in town, and so you'll have no problem finding them. There is this one that's called the Tiger and Peacock, which is on the Memphian Hotel at the top, but it's kind of like a sultry speakeasy type of vibe. And what's kind of cool about it is they specialize in these cocktails that are made for your zodiac sign. So you've got like each, when you were born, your zodiac sign, there's a special cocktail for you. As I am a Virgo, I had there's a raspberry mint vodka.
You're a Virgo?
I am a Virgo.
Ah, no wonder we
Yep.
get along. Us Virgos.
What are you?
Us Virgo.
Oh, Mike, when's your birthday?
August 31st. What's
Oh my
yours?
God, August 24th.
Oh, do you know, like other travel writers we know are all in the same genre? Yeah, it's a
Interesting.
thing.
Interesting.
We need to have a Virgo like cocktail
Party.
adventure. We should just go to
Yeah.
Memphis, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a very cool idea. I thought it was a very cool
You are
idea.
a Virgo.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I got some power. Like now I have extra power. You
Ah.
have everybody. Listen, Virgos, we are attention to detail.
Yes.
And if you're going to travel, you need people like us. And travel writers that have that attention to detail are the best. Debbie is definitely one of the best. And so, hell
Thank you,
yes.
my dear.
I'm like, hell yes, she's part of my family. I
Ah.
always consider you part of my family, but now there's this extra layer of love.
I
Oh,
love it.
you have
I love
no
it.
idea. That is fan frigging tastic. Yes.
Kindred spirits, right there. Right.
Oh, honey, like we going down. Like you got to go to Memphis. Like
Yep.
now, I'm just
Yep.
saying, like whatever she
Yep.
says, you got to do. I've always said it, but now I'm like really like she sussed it out. She knows.
You have to go.
Don't
Yeah.
mess with.
It is.
I love it.
It is truly a special place, and I think every visitor would agree. It's truly special. There's just so
And you
much
went to the
going on.
Punk Museum in Vegas, so I know you're cool. Like, and you went up. You've done all the music places that I've had on my bucket list. Like the Punk Museum, I didn't know was on my bucket list until you
Yeah.
went. But you went to Seattle. You did all these. You went. Oh, you've done. What was it? Cincinnati? Where was it? Oh gosh, come on. You know the place up in Ohio. The Music Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you went there, and I'm like,
Nope.
dude.
Yes. Yes.
This chick is
Yes.
stealing my thunder. Now I feel good. Now I feel good. She's part of this, the sisterhood of
That's
Virgo.
right.
It's okay.
That's
Now I don't
right.
have to be so jealous, but like I am. I am. I
Well,
am.
I think to everybody listening, put Memphis on your list. If you love music, if you love history, if you love good food,
You obviously like good
just do
music.
it.
I'm
Do
just
it.
saying. Fire
Do it.
Monkey likes good music. So
I like it all.
memphistravel.com is the website to go to for planning your destination and your adventure. Not just like you get there as a destination, you're going to have an adventure. Arrivehotels.com/Memphis is there. And everyone, really, honestly, all the links are in the show notes, whether you're listening on YouTube, Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever. All the links are there, including Debbie's article. So check it out there. So thank you so much, Debbie Fire Monkey. I am jealous, but I will behave and not be jealous, but I am.
Just go and do. Just go and visit.
Okay.
That's all I say.
I will. I
And
will. Thank you.
until next time,
Awesome. Can't wait. What's the next destination? Tell everybody.
I am headed to Greenland, Iceland, and Greenland. Greenland, actually. I will go via Iceland, but I will be doing an expedition boat trip and checking out all the nature and the villages and the culture, and I am very psyched.
You said Greenland, and I am green with envy. So, but thank you for coming back to report as you come back,
Always, always.
Get your butt back home safe and have a good
Thank
time.
you.
We look forward to it. Everybody, Debbie is on our show. Travel writer Debbie Stone is on our show every fourth Tuesday. Oh my gosh! And I feel
Hard to
like,
believe.
and really, and many articles in our big weekly blend, you'll see that because a lot, she's just like nonstop. She's traveling everywhere. So keep up with that too. But keep up with us at bigblendradio.com and blendradio and TV.com for articles too. But thank you so much, Debbie. Always a pleasure. Thanks for joining
Thank you
us.
so much. Take care. Bye-bye.